I'm Ross, a curious parent.
And I'm Jon, an education expert.
This is From the Sidelines.
Bite-sized study tips to help you help them through.
Hello everyone, good to see you back again for another episode of From the Sidelines. Jon, how are we doing?
Very good, Ross. Good to be back.
Can you explain, Jon, why you are so passionate about this particular topic for parents and carers?
Yeah, really kind of passionate because I'm, as you know, a parent myself of two teenagers. One's at university, one's currently in Key Stage 4, in going from year 10 to year 11. And really passionate, I suppose. I've been a teacher myself and a school leader, speaking to lots of parents who ask, how can they really help at home? They might not know physics or Shakespeare or that type of stuff. And actually, some of the things we talk about are very easy to do. And it's about, hopefully giving people an insight into how they can help at home. And certainly what we're going to talk about today is one of what I think my favorite and go-to resources as a parent and also as a teacher if I'm advising people that can really help students, children or adults anyway, at any age, learn something and really learn it in a concrete kind of way that it will always be with you. And that has to be good, right? That's what we're in the business of doing as teachers, and we want as parents, we want our children to learn that, understand it, and be able to recall it at a future date. So hopefully, what we're going to talk about today is a almost a fail-safe way, if I would put my neck on it, to learn something.
The famous quote there. We'll take that and use that wisely. So it's flashcards.
That's correct.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people have heard of flashcards. Okay, I know myself. I use flashcards.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of young people that use flashcards. What are they, Jon?
Okay, so if people have listened to a previous episode where we've talked about retrieval practice and memory and how we have to do something with the information to make it stick in our brains rather than just rereading things. So flashcards is a great way to do that. So almost. This is hand in hand with the retrieval practice episode. That kind of flashcards are a great tool to do the retrieval practice, okay? And pretty simply, what they are is a question on one side and an answer on the other.
Yeah.
And it's that simple. And the whole idea is that your child then reads the question and has to answer the question before they flip it round. So again, it creates that kind of physical act of having to challenge them to come up with an answer, and their brain has to do something rather than just reading things that they think they remember. So yeah, very simple, but very effective.
And as Jon mentioned there, a previous episode, retrieval practice covers the notion of learning in terms of the physical element to it really effectively. So if you haven't watched that, do take a look, just to give you a bit more of an understanding of what we're talking about explicitly there. I've seen some pre-populated flashcards from our key supporting partner Collins, for example, around lots of topics, Romeo and Juliet, etc. So from a pre-populated perspective, is that what we need to do then as parents and carers? Is that kind of where we need to be heading?
Well, we can, but you don't have to.
Okay.
So there's two ways to do it. The pre-populated cards, like you mentioned, are great. They're very well organised. They link perfectly to the revision guides. If you've got revision guides from Collins at home, so you've therefore got the right questions that link to the right topics, all that kind of stuff. They've got certain things on where you can learn specific key language that test you on the certain thing. So they're all very, very well done. However, we always want to make sure we are promoting things that also don't cost any money as well. So you don't have to do that. You can make your own. And as I said right at the start of this, when you asked what are they, I literally said it was a card, or it could be a piece of paper with one question on, with an answer on the other side. So anybody can make their own flashcards. You don't have to go out and buy them. There's a nicety sometimes to have them all pre-prepared and to have them all in the right colours that link back to revision guides. But equally, there's also a real learning advantage to making your own, because you've then got to know what questions to ask yourself, and you've therefore got to go through all the information and find the answers and write it down. And if we go back to a previous episode on retrieval where I talked about the physical act of retrieval, actually creating your own flashcards is part of the learning process itself, isn't it? You have to understand what you have to learn, find the questions, find the answers, write it down. So all of that, again, is learning by stealth. You don't even think you're learning, but by just creating them, you are doing it. So two ways to do it. Entirely up to parents how they want to do it, or a mixture But both is great.
So parents and carers listening to this now, at home thinking, I'm going to create some flashcards or support my child with creating flashcards as a key tool. Mm-hmm. Can you take us through the steps of how you would do it most effective?
Absolutely. So to begin with, either card or paper. Doesn't really matter. But obviously, if you've got some card, they're probably going to be a bit more hard-wearing than just normal A4 printer paper. But it can be as simple as A4 printer paper, and you cut with some scissors, a normal kind of like a credit card style, or a bit more than a credit card, in terms of like a business card type, potentially. And you've then got a series of cards. So there you've got your flashcards already. You then, what I would say is to write one question, and this is, in my experience, the best way to do this if you're making them yourself. One question on one side and one answer on the other side. The reason I say that is because you need to kind of know sometimes whether you've got that answer correct to that flashcard.
Okay.
Because I'll talk in a little bit about kind of a good way to do it in terms of having a confident and unconfident pal. I'll come back to that in a second. So you just need to put one question, one answer, and that's it. Like, it's really, really simple. So even if you had A4 paper cut up, within 10 minutes, you could have 20 or 30 flashcards created that you've got answers on one side and a question on the other side. Like, it really is that simple. If you want to make it a bit fancier, you might want to have some different colors if you want to kind of highlight some of the key word on there or that kind of stuff. But you don't need to. It's really, really simple.
And you've mentioned previously, and I think you just briefly started thinking about that then, that obviously flashcards can be used in a couple of ways, really.
Yep.
So whether that's the self-quiz, which is from the young person themselves, or actually others quizzing and questioning the young person. So how does that work?
Okay, so the process is exactly the same in terms of learning. Okay. That you actually you read a question and you have the answer. Now, you mentioned there the two ways, self-quizzing and having a parent to quiz you. So let's look at the self-quizzing first. So as a parent, this is how you would step back from the process and allow your child to do some self-quizzing, which means they would hold the flashcards themselves, they would read the answer, but more importantly here, they've got to say the answer out loud before they turn the card over. Because what they can't do is just say, I think I know that, and then turn it round, because if they can't commit it to their lips or write it down, then they wouldn't be able to kind of get a mark for it in an exam. So it's really important for them to do that. So if they're self-quizzing, question, read it, say it out loud before you turn over and check if you got it right. The parent quizzing, so if you want to get involved as a parent, you then take the cards, maybe shuffle them up in a different order, because we all sometimes get used to. Think about your playlist in your car. You know what's coming next, don't you? You know the second song, the third song. And again, your child will know potentially which order those questions are in if they've got them in a stack. So shuffle them up, and then literally read the questions out. And then that's even better, because they have to respond with an answer and commit to their lips. They can't just go, I think I've got that, Dad. Well, hang on, tell me the answer. What is it? So they're forced into committing it to their lips. And then you can take an active role in that. So it's nice that you can find out how much they're learning, how much that they kind of have remembered, because you're almost a quiz master. And it creates a nice little atmosphere where you can get involved. Again, it's low stakes. You're not writing down how many they've got right, how many they've got wrong. It's just a nice, easy way of, right, come on, let's have 5 minutes of some retrieval. Pass me your flashcards. We'll go through it together. And again, that even just me saying it out loud there as a parent, let's go through it together. Feels nice, doesn't it? It feels supportive.
Yeah.
Rather than go upstairs, you've got to learn this on your own. Yeah. Like, we'll do this together. We're in it together. And I think that's really nice and comforting and supportive for our children to hear that we're there with them and we're there together.
Yeah. And from just from my point of view, I think as well, when you break down information into one question and answer per card, that seems much more manageable than an A4 revision note, with loads of information on there. So I think everything around that becomes more manageable, doesn't it, for both the parent and carer and also for the young person?
Absolutely. It makes it feel easy. It makes it feel simple. And like I say, whether you've got pre-populated cards that might have 2 or 3 different questions on related to different areas of the revision guide that you've been working through, you might find that really useful. You might find equally useful to create your own. So however you do that, again, it's the act of doing it that makes a difference.
And once we've nailed the flashcards and that process, how do we take it to the next level and become a flashcards master, let's call it?
Okay, right. So I'll give you some 2 or 3 tips here, some kind of golden nuggets for parents to take away. So the first one is potentially to get a keyring loop or a treasury tag and hole punch the flashcards in the top left-hand corner, let's say. And what that allows you to do is maybe keep all of those flashcards for a certain topic or a certain subject together, organised, nice and neat. Now, there'll be some parents listening to this who will think their child will need that because they have that real organisational OCD. They like things together, probably more females than males in our experience. But actually
I don't know what you mean.
But that organisation and feeling they've got everything, they know where it is, and they can at any point put their hand on their their kind of geography ones or their kind of coastal erosion ones, or to grab, knowing I'm doing one topic at a time. So that's a really nice way, because then you can flip them round and they're all organised. However, the downside of that is unless you take them off the keyring loop at any point, you might fall into the trap of knowing what's coming next.
Sure.
So for people just to be aware of that there is a strength and there's also a weakness to that. So, but if you take them off the treasury tag and then you use them normally, but then put them back on at the end, I suppose that's the best of both worlds. The second thing then is thinking about how you use something called the lightness system, LEITNER, the lightness system. And I mentioned before about having a confident and unconfident pile. So this is where I'm going to go back and refer to that. What this does is if you take them off a treasury tag or off the keyring loop, if you got a question right, then if your child is self-quizzing or if you're doing the quizzing, if they get a question right, you put the question on the confident pile. So what that's saying is, we got that right, it was pretty confident, and we know that they've learned that. If they get it wrong, put it in the unconfident pile. What that allows you to do is visibly see the difference between those piles, because at some point you want the confident pile to be higher than the unconfident pile. It allows your child to see the balance of that, and if that's changing, and if it's going up or down, so there's hopefully more on the confident pile and less on the unconfident pile. But what it also allows you to do is take more questions from your unconfident pile, because that's the ones you need to work on, rather than just randomly selecting questions. Because actually, random is great to a certain extent, but random doesn't then work on your weaknesses, which ultimately is your unconfident pile. So that's a very, very good way to do that. And again, you can have that, whether it's you might have a box, almost like a little box or an in tray where you've got kind of confident, unconfident, and you leave them in there for a couple of weeks and you keep moving them around. Or even just in the session itself, if I'm going to quiz you for 5 or 10 minutes, anything you get wrong, I'm putting in the unconfident one. Anything you get right, and at least we can work on those. And I then start to work on those unconfident ones. And going back to a previous video, the constant low stakes retrieval of those unconfident ones, eventually I start moving them into a confident. The only other thing I was going to say on that, just to be aware of, if you guess the answer, or if you're not sure and you give me one and it's right, I'm still probably going to put that in the unconfident pile, because remember, it's not right and wrong pile.
Yep.
It's confident
Yep.
and unconfident.
Yep.
So I might even say to you, Ross, you got that right, but you didn't look which pile do you want me to put it in? And then you might say, yeah, Dad, put it in the unconfident one, because I think I need a bit more work on it. So it just creates that nice feeling. Again, working together, low stakes, doesn't matter. It's not right and wrong. It just makes it work really well. So yeah, hopefully that's 2 or 3 gold nuggets there of how people can use flashcards to, and again, it might be that you want to use it for your own personal lives as adults, whether it's, for job interviews or things you need to learn for work. They're really, really easy ways to do it. Whether you, like you say, cut bits of paper up, whether you go out and buy card index style cards, whether you buy some card and cut the card, whether you buy pre-populated ones, just have a go and you'll be amazed how powerful it is as a tool, really, but equally how simple it is.
And in a world of AI, mobile tech, apps, it's lovely to know that paper, card, scissors.
You can't beat it.
Done.
And that's why I said at the start, I put my neck out and said, this is, I as a teacher and a school leader, I always say, this would be my go-to resource for people. It's almost a fail-safe way of remembering information, because it's just very simple, very easy, and just tried and tested and proven that this absolutely works. So yeah.
And that's what it's all about, isn't it? You don't need to know the topic. You don't need to understand the subject matter. What you need to be able to do is provide those moments when you can essentially quiz your your child and help them in terms of that piece of retrieval, help them in terms of building their knowledge base.
Absolutely. And we'd love to see you sharing some ideas with us in terms of your flashcards that you've either made or you've bought, or even, getting some, pictures of you actually in the process of asking questions, with your child. We'd love you to tag us in social media. We'll retweet, one so that other people can see and feel part of that wider community of parents, grandparents, childminders, anyone who champions young people. Helping them to really help them through and helping them with their studies with some flashcards. So we'd love to see your flashcards and how they're all slightly different to everyone, and whether you've gone with your likeness system, whether you've got your keyring loop, whether you've got all that kind of stuff going on. So yeah, please tag us in that. We would love to see it.
Thanks, Jon. As always, a pleasure and fantastically useful information. So I'm already looking forward to the next one. We'll see you soon.